Our interview today is with simplicity expert Miriam Ortiz y Pino. And she says clutter is only part of the story, with clients struggling to break out of self-defeating patterns, keeping them stuck. Many who are experiencing life at mid-career or halftime of life are faced with lots of stuff that has been accumulated for many years or handed down from family members who have either downsized or passed on. Stuff also refers to stuff we have to do. So how do we increase our productivity and eliminate what is not needed to do our best work? Well, stay tuned as we explore that in today's podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media, with resources and ideas for you at mid-career or halftime of life. Check out our online courses, where we want you to not only start, but finish. Books available in all versions, and songs available for immediate download with sheet music and instrumental accompaniment tracks. Our musicals are family-friendly with great music that's memorable and inspiring. Sign up at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter for weekly updates. Now to our episode.
Well, I am so excited to have Miriam with us today, and wonderful smiling face there. And I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself, but you've got a simplicity. You're known as a simplicity expert, and also you are a certified professional organization or organizer, I guess. But I like my guests to introduce a little bit more about themselves and their background. And that's what I'd love to do. And for those listening, just tuning in, we focus on those at mid-career, halftime of life. And today's episode is more relevant than ever, dealing with stuff. And not only with stuff that we deal with, physical stuff, but also mental and everything else that we're doing. So I like to kind of dig into that. It's very, very relevant for us. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background and how you come into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I'm one of those people that had 50 different jobs before I figured out who I wanted to be when I grew up. But at a certain point, I realized I wasn't very good at working for other people. So I needed to do my own thing. And I did quite a bit of research. And I happened to be simultaneously working on practicing voluntary simplicity myself. Just felt like consumer culture, there was so much pressure involved in that. And I worked in retail at the time, and it was like absurd. And so as I was doing the research, I realized I could marry the two. I could become a professional organizer and help people make more conscious consumer decisions at the same time. And so that really appealed to me. And so More Than Organized was born. And then about 7 years in, I realized there's more to it than just organizing the stuff. There's all the mindset pieces that come in. And so I started getting various certifications in coaching as well, so that I could help people really improve those decisions. Instead of it being that surface level, do I love it? Do I use it? Do I need it stuff? Or does it spark joy stuff that is out there in the zeitgeist? It became much more about how can the stuff I allow into my life support and nurture me in what I want to do with my life. And so coaching came into it. And of course, running a business, I struggled with money mindset myself. And so money mindset became another piece of it.
Oh, that's great. I mean, you've got to, when you're running, especially as an entrepreneur, you got to think about the money too.
And limiting money beliefs keep more entrepreneurs out of success than probably anything else.
Wow. We're going to dig into that too. I think that's important. And so tell us a little bit about, you discovered then that you're an entrepreneur. Now, when I went through school, I had never even heard of the word entrepreneur. So it was this, all of a sudden I turned around and realized, oh, that's what I am. And as I, in the entertainment field, I've been, doing all my own stuff for so many years. I was employed by universities and all of that too, in the teaching, but it was still a new word for me. So for you, discovering that you were an entrepreneur and going into this, what was the mindset that you had to take on? Because you're talking about the money mindset as well. Were there some other mindsets that you had to go through those coaching trainings? You loved coaching. That's what you said. You fell in love with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like kind of everything that had happened in my life kept pushing me in that direction without really knowing what it was. Okay. And it was more after the fact that I realized what it was. So my very first job ever was working for a friend of my mom's who owned a greenhouse and a wholesale herb company. And I just always thought, oh, I like people that do their own thing or run their own business. I didn't think of it as entrepreneurship at the time. I was also really fascinated with the creative process. And it turns out when you marry those two together, owning a small business and creativity, you get entrepreneur. And then it can grow as big as you want it. You get to be in charge. So I think a part of it is me being a control freak. Part of it is how to bring creativity into my everyday work. Okay. And really wanting some freedom, but also really wanting to be an expert in something. Right. So all of it just kind of marinated together until I ended up with this particular recipe that still feels like it's hard to talk about sometimes. And yet I've gotten really clear on it in the last year. So
that's great. I think we get clearer and clearer. It's like by the time we finally get it, But that's quite the journey to become, and you're an organizer. I mean, are you naturally organized? How did you figure that out? Because I feel like I need to surround those people, have those, people around me to help me, inspire me with that area. Yeah.
So people are not born organized. It is a learned skill, but some people are born seeking order. Okay. So you may we've all encountered that kid that sorts their Legos by themselves or lines things up, their dolls up or whatever it is. I was one of those people, but that did not mean I was very discerning in what I kept. I had a lot of containers full of a lot of things as a child.
Well, at least they were containers. That's a big deal.
Now I have much fewer containers because it turns out that wasn't a good thing. That just hides your undealt with decisions from yourself. So that's
very true.
But what really got me into organizing was understanding systems and systems design. When I was in high school, it started a little before high school, but I just wanted to pull things together and figure out how they would work best, how they would be easier for the people using them. So with my family, with that first job I had at school, I was the kid with the perfect trapper keeper.
That's great.
Just right. The pages don't fall out, but the binder itself kind of sucked. So I actually moved all my trappers into a regular binder because it worked better. And my mom was in school and went back to work when I was a kid. And it was like, okay, how can we, and she's not that organized. She would set up systems, but not be able to maintain them. So I took over maintaining the systems and then figuring out why they weren't working for her. Okay. So it just kind of became a big experiment for me. What can I change that makes it easier?
And that's the best way to learn.
Yeah. It's all that curiosity. It had a place to go when I kept it with things. A place to go that wouldn't get me in trouble. Let's put it that way.
Right. I was just talking to a medical intern today, and I said, there's only so much that you can learn from school, and you got to be in the field. You've got to be doing it. And so, it's very, very important. Well, so the entrepreneurship, the coaching, you just kind of fell into that, loved that, decided that you didn't want to just stay in that other type of job. Tell us all how you changed your relationship with money, because that's a part of it. That's the part of the business. And I've talked a lot to artists. Of course, I've been an artist for a long time as well. Still am in many ways a creative because I love to create and still work in that field. But there's a lot to, you have to be supportive to supporting yourself.
Yeah.
And also running the actual business. So what is that relationship with money? If you don't think about it, you're going to live in your car, and you're not,
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. An awful lot of people, especially artists and creative types, don't want to deal with money. It's not important. I don't have to think about it.
Right.
Yet you do.
Yeah.
So I understood that. I never really had that, but my mom always just knew that money would be fine. Like it doesn't grow on trees necessarily, but she kind of believed in that universal energy before people were really talking about it in that way. And she was just like, well, we pay our rent and we buy our groceries first, and then the rest works itself out.
Right.
My dad kind of believes money's the root of all evil.
Oh dear. Oh my gosh. What a combination there.
But at the same time, he runs, $1 billion budgets for government agencies. So there's always a little bit of a weird disconnect there. We're going to pay his own insurance, but, can help millions of people get the benefits they need. So I grew up with this like split personality and being thought of as the person that only thought about money in my family.
Interesting.
But it only got me so far because I still was connecting it very clearly to have to work harder to make more money. And it took me till literally 2 years ago to really get over that one. I would I'd make a certain leap and then it would stall out, and I'd make it a certain leap and it would stall out. And it just takes a while to rewire our brains so that it believes us that, oh, the money still shows up because I've planted the seeds and I've done the other work, but I don't have to work harder, just smarter now.
Right. Oh, I like that term, planting the seeds, because that's really important. And we're going to talk about systems. We're going to talk about routine, but planting those seeds, so very important. And I was just telling a colleague yesterday who emailed me, and she's in the arts, and she just says, I don't know. Is this it for me? Do I have, she's got, a couple jobs, but then what is there after that? And I just told her, I said, your work ethic, a lot of people don't have that work ethic. That is one of your best qualities. And when you see that, not a lot of people are willing to work as hard as you do. You got to see where that takes you. You are working very, very hard. And that's a secret for many of just, it doesn't always mean work longer, work smarter, but that doesn't mean that you still don't work hard.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important. It's not like you just slough off and go, oh, okay, now I'm just going to be smarter and not work. That is not true. When I get out of town, I've bought a lot of freedom so I can travel and do a little bit more with my husband, but I work extremely hard in, with the stuff that's automated. I automate almost everything. So it's very, very important.
It's that's the system of being an entrepreneur, right? We have to create a system, we automate it or delegate as much as possible, and then we get to use the rewards, reap the rewards. And it's not about working more on stuff that doesn't move the needle. It's about really getting to recognize what does. And it's not always the website. No. Sometimes it is. At a certain point, it might be, but it's not at the expense of doing the phone calls or doing the networking or talking more and working on your messaging. Like there's things that are more important each and every day, but consistency is where you got to work hard. Wow. And it's not difficult physically. It's difficult mentally to wrap your head around, I got to make 3 more calls. I got to make 5 more calls. I got to email 5 more people, whatever it is. But that's the planting of seeds. Once you get your thing nailed down, you just start talking about it with everybody. Right. Yeah.
And that, I think that kind of leads to my next question of this mindset and productivity. What sort of, and how's that connected there? With that, when you don't, okay, so I know I need to do this, but there's just a lot of times you just don't feel like it, or just,
So building enough structure, enough framework that's flexible. I myself, I have a couple different medical situations that there are days when, I've got a migraine or I'm just exhausted. It's not going to get done. But I have a framework that allows me to think weekly.
Yes.
So if I don't feel great today, I still have tomorrow to do that.
Right.
And the worst that could happen is it's 2 or 3 days, and then I do kind of a catch-up situation. But it's not, I always ask myself, what is the thing that gets me closer to money today?
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing?
Great.
Yeah, like what's the thing that brings in the money? You got to start with that every day.
Right.
Follow the money. You go
yes.
to
Mm-hmm.
what's the thing that'll bring me money next month?
Yes.
And so I just kind of have a hierarchy of knowing what the minimum effective dose is in any given day, based on where I am in my year and what's on offer. But minimum effective dose and then optimal effective dose, and anything in between those is great.
Good. And I think, what my little system is, I let my lists, I let my calendar, carry my stress. Then I know, no, I'm okay for this many weeks. I'm okay. So I can back off. I can be gone for 2 weeks and that sort of thing. So you can, you've got it all done.
Yeah. And in terms of like with creatives, they don't want to be hemmed in by a calendar.
Right.
And I got to show them how having some constraints actually enhances your creativity.
Ooh.
You have to get it done in this amount of space. So you got to start listening for the muse. You got to get down to work. There's no more la la land.
Yeah.
Well, after you do that part, then you can go back into la la land and start making other connections. But having constraints, some of the best art, some of the best writing, some of the best dance comes out of, you have to do it in 30 seconds. You have to do it with this medium. You have this much space, whatever it is, allows you to get really super focused.
Right. A regular schedule, a regular getting back to it. I always say writing is rewriting. There's very few songs that just sort of pop and happen. We hear about them. We think, oh, maybe that'll happen to me. Usually it is a craft, but it's putting it on the schedule and all of them. That's very, very important with the creatives.
You have to have enough repetitions for that creativity to spark.
Right.
You have to write a lot of bad stuff till you get to the good stuff. And then you recognize the new thing that's coming in to create.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Man, that is I could just talk about that every single day of my life and, how this happens to it. It's such a good reminder. And I think that is a really important message for those that are listening. And let's talk a little bit about stuff here.
Yeah.
Because stuff at this point of our lives is a big deal.
Yes.
And I'm dealing with stuff. I'm actually getting rid of some things in my music studio because I'm not using a certain amount of equipment anymore. And I know at some point our sons will probably just throw it away. It'll be obsolete. So I might as well get it rid of it. It's work right now. Get rid of it.
Come on, Deborah. How many 8 tracks do you still own?
No, I don't own any of those actually, but I do own some other sequencing modules. But that's what you have to do. You have to make those decisions, and it's work. It's work to get rid of some. And then we've had parents pass. And so you want to keep a certain amount of stuff because it's memories, but yet it's stuff. It's more to manage. And so how do we deal with this? Because you are, as a certified professional organizer, I mean, I love Marie Kondo. I just, that's really helpful. That's really actually helped me to keep all of my things in the same sort of systems and the same sort of places. But that goes so far. But you really talk far beyond that. So how do we deal with this mindset with stuff as well? And how do you approach that in your business that maybe is a unique twist on this?
Yeah. So it turns out you really have to know what your desired outcome is.
Okay.
Not everybody needs to get rid of everything. It's
That's
helpful
good to
for
know.
your children for sure, but
Yes.
not necessary if you are the kind of person that struggles with it. But what is important is to begin practicing discernment.
Mhm.
We have this epidemic, I think, of everything being the same level of importance in our lives.
Mhm.
And so you can't let go. But if
Okay.
you actually look at, okay, this is my parents' death certificate, and this is a pizza receipt
Right.
from 4 years ago
Yeah.
that's not deductible,
Yes.
there's a difference.
Right.
So you don't have to keep everything. But
Right,
what
right.
we do is get overwhelmed and we don't make any decisions.
Right.
And so starting small and practicing decision making,
Mhm.
our brains thrive on practice and repetition to rewire. And the
Okay.
better you get at the super easy decisions,
Mhm.
the more success you'll have quickly.
Mm.
The all or nothing mentality of, oh, I know everything in that pile. Really?
Mhm.
I literally take my client's pile and turn it upside down and I say, okay, what's in there? And then they
Okay.
can't
Mhm.
because they don't actually know. They've just been telling themselves that for 6 months. So they won't have to deal with it.
Wow.
That's in there.
Yeah.
So there's a certain aspect of discernment. There's a certain aspect of getting really clear on
Mhm.
what you want
Mhm. Right.
your outcome to be, because what it looks like for you doesn't look like what it looks like to anyone else. Trying to help someone downsize into a tiny home does not look like trying to downsize into a 3,600 square foot house.
No.
And, trying to get healthy, your pantry doesn't look the same as a family with 7 kids. It's not going to be the same system. So stop trying to look like someone else.
Yeah.
And let's figure out what works for you.
Mhm.
And then I bring the money mindset into it. So the first assessment tool I use with all my clients is my Sacred Money Archetypes quiz. Because if you know your archetypes, it translates to how you spend money, your relationship with money, and your stuff, and the people in your life. And so now I know where I can push you or let you do your own thing in that arena, because we have some insight into your personality and how your brain processes information.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I really liked that you mentioned, and I want to just delve into it a tiny bit more, is that we rewire the brain,
Right.
because it's a habit, and it's something when you do that. And I talk about the myelin sheath. I talked about this in music. I wrote a book called Music for Kids, and music is the last thing that goes in an Alzheimer patient, because it's the first thing. It's that part of the brainstem. And that's why my father-in-law, I heard him sing all of the words, every single one, to joy to the world, every verse. And he died the next day or so. I mean, he couldn't remember his name. He couldn't remember anything, but he sang every word. So there's a lot of that. And that's a rewiring a bit of the brain. So can you talk about that in the habits? Because some people really struggle with this. And I set my timer when I do things, because I just know I'm going to get distracted. There's going to be something. It's like, oh, I can work on that. Stay focused. And I talk about my 10-minute timer and, all of that. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So there's like 12 different ways I can approach it. The timer is great because it helps you stay oriented. And our brain kind of like to know where we are in time and space, even when we think we don't. It's one of those constraints that helps you focus to produce more in a small amount of time. Rewiring the brain habits, everything is a habit, and our brains are designed to maintain the status quo. You're not dead yet. It's fine to eat another donut and have more wine. Yeah. You're not dead yet. You can have more stuff on the pile on the edge of your counter. You're not dead yet. That's working out fine for now. But it doesn't help you achieve any long-term goals or attain any aspirations or change your behaviors for the better when you are looking for transformation in your life. When you're bored out of your mind and have no energy and flop down on the couch and scroll and scroll and scroll, none of your brain's unconscious status quo helps in any way. So you have to figure out some things you desire that will give you the motivation to change something. Radical dissatisfaction, that's what leads to change. So what are you dissatisfied about? It's not the stuff per se. It's the fact that you have so much stuff you can't do the thing you want to do.
Oh,
how many times have we heard, I can't do that. I've got to get organized first. I have people that want to hire me and need to get organized first before they can hire me. I'm like, you realize that's ridiculous, right? But
it's like cleaning the house before the housekeepers come. I do it all the time. Because I won't be able to find my stuff.
But that's different. You're not cleaning, you're tidying.
Yes, that's true.
So tidying is putting the things away.
Okay, that's good.
Is scrubbing and using chemicals to repel future dirt.
Right.
Organizing is creating a system that allows you to find what you need when you need it and makes cleaning easier. And helps you develop the habit of tidying. So that you are no longer overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things that are out of place.
I love that. That is so helpful. And it is, I think it's helpful for me to think about that, the organization of the systems, because I'm very self-judgmental. I go into a friend's house and everything looks like, oh, she has clear counters. Well, my sister did too.
Know. She didn't just shove them all into the coat closet before you came.
Yes, exactly. And I have learned that, but still my mind immediately goes, oh, my counters aren't that clean. Oh, I need to go home. I need to have it cleaner next time. And then of course, stuff gets, the mail and, you got to have there's certain systems.
Yes.
And and I've put some of those in place, but then they get lax too. My husband's a little bit different than me. And with this stuff, I had told him this morning, I said, I think we need to go, there's a stack here of all of this mail. I think we need to, he goes, we? And I said, you need to go through that stuff. That's your stack. I'm not going to go through it. So, but I think it's that sort of judgmental, what we do to ourselves. But I liked what you had said, that organization, get the organization system and then go about with the tidying, and then the cleaning is different. That is a different mindset, because I do know unless stuff is put away, I won't be able to find it, because they're going to, someone's going to put it away that's here, that's, cleaning my bathrooms or something. Yes.
I know. My cat is always putting the mugs on the wrong shelf.
I don't know how they do it too. I don't have a cat. I have a dog. But she can jump. I'm sure she can get this stuff. Yeah. We blame a lot on her, on little Amelia. So, I wanted to ask, there's a little question that I put down here on what strategies. I mean, do you have some specific strategies on this? Because you're talking about systems.
Yeah.
So what strategies? And then we want to talk also about staying accessible, but yet productive, because I took an extra phone call today, and I always think, okay, do I have time for that phone call? And I'm so glad I did, because it was a contact I'd not, seen and heard from in a long time. And I'm so glad I did take that call, but there was always that, okay, do I have time to do this? So how do you deal with some of that? Because that's, again, that can be a mental, that stuff.
Yeah. And it goes to productivity, and it's where that intersection happens. There's a very fine line between inspiration and things being in your way. So especially for creative people who have all kinds of inspiration all over their house,
right?
To the point where they can't create anything. I love to know what's the desired outcome, and then reverse engineering. What are the things, the resources required to make that happen? Everything else is excess.
Okay.
So if you start with what's required, the essential things, there's that book Essentialism, which I think is fantastic.
I love that book.
What is essential? People are always telling me, I can't create my art. I don't have time. I have to get organized first. I'm like, what? You are an illustrator. Don't you need a pencil and a piece of paper? What else do you need to do your thing?
Right.
And then that gives you joy, and That's where the joy comes in from Marie Kondo.
Right.
The things allow you to do the thing that brings you joy. The things themselves don't bring joy.
Right. Right.
Except art. If beauty is something that's important to you, having things that just make you smile when you walk by can be motivating.
Right.
But, half the junk in your house doesn't do that.
Yes.
You might have bought it with the intention that it did that, but it wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
So reverse engineer. What's the outcome? What do you need to do that? Put that stuff in place and then slowly bring a few pieces of beauty and motivation back into it so that it has your spin on it.
Yeah.
But so much of what we keep is identities of who we used to be or future possibilities that we don't have time for.
That's a big one. That is a big one of what I'm going to be doing this someday. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to be doing this someday.
What day is that? Put it on the
10 years later. Yeah, 10 years later.
I mean, it never fails. You find research or something that was inspiration for something that's no longer valid anyway. It's like, oh, well, that's from when 8 tracks were a thing.
Right.
That's from when, we didn't have cell phones. That's from when, we couldn't buy these things online. And so you stock a few extras.
Right.
All those things come into play. Yes. So start what is going to allow you to do the thing you really want to do.
Right. What I love about some of your message, and then I want to talk about how you are unique from other organizers, because I've talked to some others. But I like the fact that it's okay to keep a certain amount of things. You've kind of given us the freedom that it's okay. Look, you don't have to have everything. Yes.
Practice voluntary simplicity, which equates to these days minimalism.
Yes.
But some of the Instagram people would look at that and be like, oh my God, that's so much stuff. I'm like, but I use all of it.
Yes. Yes. And you have a system.
Pretty. And that's just pretty. But I use it.
Yes. Well, and I think that's important. And it's okay. It's just okay, to do this. I mean, I probably have 10 sets of dishes and I use them all. So it's okay.
You don't.
I do. I love.
You may use one piece of each different kind, but do you use full sets? I don't know.
I do. Actually, I do. I like entertaining and I use all of my at different points of the year.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Not every single day. Right. But you want it. Yeah. I think it's freeing to say yes. And then, sure, our kids are not going to want some of the things that I have. That's fine. I don't need to know that because I won't be here. So they can, it'll be fine. But just the freedom here to, be able to actually think about the end goal. What do we want? What is the end game? What we want things to look like? How do we want to feel? Are there certain other things that we want in our home? All of that is very important. So how are you unique than some of the other? I mean, I know because you focus on money as well. And so that's a uniqueness, a unique part, because an organizational system with money is also extremely important. You've really got to think about the cash to, survive. So, but how are you unique in, if someone wants to call you, why would they call you? How does that work for you and what you are promoting?
Yeah. So I typically work with creative visionaries that struggle with organization, productivity, and money mindset. And I do all three at the same time. So I also will not go shopping for containers for you unless we know exactly what the container is. I think Instagram has us thinking that it all looks the same. It's all clear acrylic containers with, Cricut labels on it. And that's a ridiculous waste of time, in my opinion. So I do have labels. I do have plastic containers, but they're for a purpose. And so I think I'm one of the few organizers in the world that will join all three things to work on simultaneously. We do the coaching, we set up the systems, we clear the clutter, we create the creativity workflow for you while honoring your money mindset, your archetypes, and making improvements there as well.
And archetypes are important. So that money mindset with the creativity, I think, is really important. I think that's a real value for any artists to be able to think that in that realm, and clearing away some of the clutter. So you have, especially with your mindset, so you have the freedom to keep working and to keep doing your best work to be able to do that. Yes.
And really honoring your work, not the shoulds. I try to eliminate all the shoulds from your life. Be you.
Yes. I like that. Eliminate all the shoulds, because I deal with that. I think all of us in some ways, but I should spend more time on this. I should spend, so
why?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't. I mean, if it's not perfect, it's okay. But I do get a whole lot done.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to get beyond that, but there's still that mindset, and I can go back there very, very easily. And I think a lot of people can go back there. I should. Yes.
It's that connection again between what do you want? What do you need? Discerning between the needs, the wants, and the shoulds.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like to encourage those who are at mid-career, halftime of life, in deciding what to do next. It shouldn't be I should do this. No.
Why?
I want to do this. And that's where
juicy desired outcome.
Core
Finally
values, purpose, everything comes out with that. And that's very, very important to discover. That's why my Hero Mountain Summit, that's what we do. Part of that. And that program is really take the time to develop those consistency, the habits, the core values, and going through those little bit by little bit. I think it's so very important for people to be able to come out on the other end and at least get farther and know, okay, this is where I'm going. Because a lot of people are just still spinning in that roundabout, as I talked about. Well, let's, how do people contact you? First of all, I want you to leave people, if they're listening to this, many of my podcasts, I put out articles, or you will be included in an article. Of course, get on our newsletter, because you will get the post about every single new podcast. And I give away a lot of stuff too, as well as music and all sorts of things that I have a lot of downloads. But what do you want to leave people with if they're listening to this? They're in their car, or they're on a walk. What do you want to leave people with?
Yeah, I've got a few things. If you want to stay connected with me, morethanorganized.net has all the different ways to contact me. There's a couple free offers as well. I run regular declutter masterclasses throughout the month, so you can sign up for the next one. And I have the 1-minute mail kit if you struggle with information, paper piles and computer piles. It helps. It's a really flexible framework to help you just gain control of that and start that discernment process.
Wonderful. Wow. Yeah. And in this, if you look at the show notes, you'll find all your links. I'll make sure those are there. So what's one thing, if someone was going to say, I need to apply something I've heard today, I don't want to be overwhelmed, I just want to apply one thing.
Right.
What would that be? What can you leave people with?
Start figuring out what you actually really want.
Wow.
A juicy desired outcome. And it can come from your values. It can come from your desired feelings. That'll lead you to figure out what's important to you. And then you use those to measure all your decisions against. Does this thing, does this activity, does this person help me get closer to that? And I don't mean transactional person-wise, but are they holding me back because they don't believe in me? Or do I need to expand my circle to figure out how to start a new business, how to do this new creative thing, but not say yes to things you're perfectly competent about, but no longer want to do.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's a big one. Because a lot of times, boy, I face this too. I could do this. I could do this. I could do this. offloading and trusting. As soon as you find a
Yes.
source to be able to offload it, that's very, very important.
Yeah.
This is such great, great advice. Again, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Just put it on the end of my website, newsletter. And I don't spam people, but you will get these articles. You will get every single podcast. We don't send tons of emails, usually just twice a week, because when a podcast comes out, and I have bonus podcasts coming out right now too. So I've accepted more this year, so which is really fun, more guests. So that has been very, very fun. Thank you so much for being here. I'm inspired. And I knew I would be, because every time I talk to someone who is, or I watch them, I watch people that have this skill of just putting everything in place. But I tell you what, when I do that in my own personal life, and I'm constantly doing that because I have usually a bunch of things going at the same time, it frees me up. It frees my mind up. And it's almost like, to me, it's like getting on a plane. You work hard, you get there, you get on that plane, you relax.
Exhale.
Unless you're scared about the plane. So don't be scared about the plane. But
don't be scared of your stuff.
Right. But for me, that's that freeing feeling that now I can leave everything, and I'm away. So, and that's what you want to be able to do with everything. As I'm looking around in my office, I want to be able to say, okay, I can, this is orderly. This is the way I'm leaving it. And it's okay the way it is. And I can gradually scale down. I've gotten rid of a lot of little things, not little, but I mean, the whole music dictionary, Grove's dictionary, I had a huge, all of that while I was going, to school, graduate school, and all of that I kept. And I thought, when was the last time I used that? Someone else needs to use that. So I donate it. Those are great things to just start going through, but it's going to free up your mind, as you said, your mindset. And you think about, you've got to think about where the money is coming from as well. So I love that you've combined that.
Space for it to come in. Yeah.
Yeah. It's freeing is what it is. It's freeing for the creative mind to be able to have all of those things together.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It was just a pleasure. I love this format of podcasts. It's just such a pleasure to meet so many guests and all around the world, pretty much. And I've appreciated your time and that you've given. And I encourage everyone to make sure you follow our podcast so you don't miss a single one. And we have my husband and I are on once a month too, together. And so we have a good time. We've been married for a number of years. And so we have adult children. We talk about all of that. This point in my life of mid-career, halftime of life, it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on. So anyway, we approach a lot of those subjects. So thank you again for being with me. And thank you all for joining in with us today. And I will look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.